Hello, welcome to English Zone Rocks. Today's lesson is The Brilliant Deep, Rebuilding the World's Coral Reefs. Learn about Ken Nedmeyer, who started the Coral Restoration Foundation, an international group dedicated to saving the world's coral reefs. Very interesting. Let's see. Look, there's a sea turtle, starfish, many fish around, and here it is. It starts with one. What is it? Yes, it's a coral. And remember that a coral is an animal. Look, one night after a full moon, the corals begin to spawn, releasing first one, then millions of tiny lives, until the waters swirl like a snow globe. Some become food for hungry fish. Some are washed into the deep sea. Some drift in the currents until come to rest, not too deep on the ocean floor. If one is lucky, it lands in a place where it can grow. This one will begin a coral reef. Kennedy Meyer grew up near Florida's Kennedy Space Center, watching America race towards the moon. Before men took off in rockets, Ken's father worked at NASA as an engineer. Ken watched his father's team send unmanned rockets with no people, Little Joey, Redstone, Atlas, towards the stars. Men followed, Alan Shepard, John Glenn. It seemed like just about anything might be possible if you set your mind to it. Oh, I love this book. But Ken's dreams weren't in the stars. He loved the ocean. He watched TV shows about underwater explorer Jacques Cousteau. Remember that Jacques is the greatest French explorer. Yes, he invented the scuba dive tubes. Yes. He died some years ago. Okay. He visited the beach whenever he could, swimming far out to a world of angelfish and sea stars. The reefs of the Florida Keys teemed with life, full of life. They painted the ocean floor fire red and murky gold. How could the reefs grow so large? What made all the different colors and shapes? How could such tiny creatures build such elaborate homes of rock? Ken learned to scuba dive and began collecting fish to keep and study at home. At one point, he had 30 aquariums in his bedroom, all bursting with life. Ken's favorite place was always out on the reef until things began to change. One summer, hotter than the rest, Ken noticed the corals were losing their color and there weren't as many fish. Look, they're all white. Fish are dying as well. The sea urchins had started to die. They are the gardeners of the reef, tiny groundskeepers who control, like as people, yes, who control the algae. But Ken didn't know that at the time. Even scientists didn't understand what an important role the sea urchins played until they were gone. Ken watched his favorite place in the world begin to fade away. The reefs were dying. and it seemed like there was nothing he could do to save them. But one day, that changed. Ken was all grown up, operating a live rock farm in the Florida Keys. Live rocks aren't really alive. They are rocks covered with algae, mollusks, sponges, and other invertebrates. They're used in saltwater aquariums as decoration and to filter waste from the water, turning poisons like ammonia and nitrates into harmless compounds. This makes the water safer and healthier for everything that lives in it. And growing them is really just a matter of patience, placing rows of bare rocks on the ocean floor and waiting for the marine life to move in. Takes time. On one moonlit night, a nearby coral colony spawned, and a few of those delicate lives found their way to Kent's rocks. They grew into star-horned corals. This is a species, look. Star-horned corals are protected, illegal to take from the ocean floor. But the law says if a coral colony grows on a live rock farm, the owner can keep it. Dun dun dun. Ken could have sold his specimens to someone with a saltwater aquarium, but instead, he and his daughter had an idea. As the corals grew, they cut off pieces and attached those pieces to other rocks. And they discovered they could use those first colonies to grow more and more corals. Look, they have them here. Be careful with your hands. What would happen if someone grew a coral colony and then tried to plant it on a dying reef? Would it grow? Could that colony help rebuild the reefs Ken left? Could the reef come back to life? Ken made plans to go to the reef where he'd loved diving as a kid to find out. He selected his coral colonies. He loaded his scuba gear and supplies and set out for the reef. One hopeful dive, one optimistic experiment. Six coral colonies, small, yes, they were small, each one the size of a hand with the fingers stretched. Six of them glued onto limestone surface, where a reef had once flourished and was now bleached and barren. Could they grow? Bleached means that they are like white, yes, with no color. Barren, they cannot produce any more eggs. Would they grow? Look, more people helping. Ken and his friends came back to check on the coral colonies again and again. Each month, they had grown larger. But it was too soon to say if the reef could fully recover, if the fish would return. But it was a beginning. Ken started a group called the Coral Restoration Foundation, a small army of volunteers on a mission to restore the reefs. They hang bits of coral on special underwater trees and lines where the corals can grow. When the corals are large enough, these fund-raised colonies are loaded onto boats with volunteers, dive equipment, and tools. Then it's out to a new home. One of the one the corals will help to build. One the corals will help to build. Weird structure. Volunteers take great care with this homecoming. They search for just the right spot, a place where each coral colony can hold on once it's grown enough to attach to the reef on its own. Divers scrape off any algae. They use chipping hammers, scraping and banging to get the surface even and smooth. Lo alisan todo, ¿ven? Then, with a careful dab of epoxy, ven así como una gotita, just the size of a Hershey's Kiss. Estos son unos chocolates, unos bomboncitos, sí, que tienen como una gotita de chocolate. Volunteers attach the coral colonies piece by piece, one by one, arm by arm, hoping they will grow on their own. Today, the transplants are not only surviving, but also reproducing. Ken's group has planted tens of thousands of coral colonies on reefs in the Florida Keys, and now he's working with other countries, otros países, teaching people how to grow corals on their own to save the reefs they love too. Tonight, the moon will be full and bright. The corals may spawn, it's a possibility. And if one tiny life lands in just the right spot, another new colony will grow. And then another, and another, and another. Dun, dun, dun. It starts with one. Well, here it's very important information what happened to coral reefs. There's no question that the world's coral reefs are dying at an alarming rate. Today, there is less than half as much coral cover in the Caribbean as there was in the 1970s. On some reefs, just a small fraction of the corals remain alive. The reasons are complicated. Scientists believe the change in ocean temperatures, disease, boating, too many boats, and overfishing have all contributed to the problem. Ken and his team are part of the solution, especially as their ideas and techniques spread to other countries. Other scientists think protecting parrotfish and sea urchins might help save the reefs, since these animals eat the algae that can overwhelm corals if it's not kept in check. There's also hope, hay una esperanza, that corals might be bred to withstand higher ocean's temperatures in the future. Well, here it explains that even though you don't know how to scuba dive, you can help them. All right, well, you can explore online. Very interesting. And here we have some coral reef vocabulary. Corals, marine invertebrates that usually live in colonies made up of identical individual organisms known as polyps. Exoskeleton, a hard external skeleton that covers the body of some invertebrates. Exo, outside. Coral polyps secrete a substance called calcium carbonate, which forms exoskeletons. Polyp, a single organism within a colony. Coral reef, a community of living creatures living on and around a rocky undersea formation created by the exoskeletons of corals. So the coral reef lives on or around, okay?